Ever felt like something was off in a conversation, but couldn't quite put your finger on it? Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius taught us that understanding human behavior is key to navigating the complexities of life. But how do you know when someone is hiding their true feelings of dislike? In today's video, we'll reveal 7 subtle signs that someone might be hiding their dislike for you, and how applying Stoic principles can help you stay composed and unshaken. Stay tuned, and discover how to recognize the hidden signals and master your reactions with timeless Stoic wisdom. 1. The Stoic view on external events and emotions. Understanding external versus internal control. At the core of Stoic philosophy lies a critical distinction between what is within our control and what lies outside of it. The Stoics believe that many of life's challenges stem from our misunderstanding of this difference. By recognizing what we can and cannot control, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and emotional turmoil. Our internal world, our thoughts, judgments, desires, and reactions, falls within our sphere of control. In contrast, the external world, including the actions, opinions, and feelings of others, is beyond our direct influence. When someone dislikes you or behaves in a way that makes you uncomfortable, their feelings and actions are external events. You cannot control their emotions or their behavior. However, you have full control over how you respond to these situations and how you choose to interpret them. The dichotomy of control. The dichotomy of control is one of the most central teachings of Stoicism and serves as a fundamental tool for managing our emotions and reactions. According to this principle, we should focus our energy solely on the things we can control and let go of worry over those things we cannot. This includes our thoughts, attitudes, actions, and judgments, essentially, everything that is a product of our own will. When someone dislikes you or hides their true feelings, it can be tempting to internalize their behavior and feel hurt or upset. However, from a Stoic perspective, the key to emotional resilience lies in recognizing that you cannot control how others feel or act. What you can control is how you perceive the situation, how you respond, and what action, if any, is needed on your part. For example, imagine you're in a social situation where you sense that someone is withholding their true feelings toward you. Perhaps they are being polite, but you feel a subtle undercurrent of disdain. A non-Stoic reaction might be to take this personally, become angry, or try to force an explanation. The Stoic approach, however, would be to acknowledge that their feelings are outside your control. Instead of reacting with defensiveness or hurt, you would focus on maintaining inner peace and understanding. You would recognize that their emotions do not define your worth or dictate how you should feel. The Stoic way would also involve a period of introspection. Why does their behavior affect you? What does it reveal about your own vulnerabilities or attachments? Is there any action you need to take, or is this simply a matter of allowing others to act as they will, without your emotional entanglement? Practical application: maintaining composure. In situations where someone dislikes you or seems to hide it, practicing Stoic principles allows you to maintain composure. Instead of being swept away by emotional reactions, you pause, reflect, and assess the situation objectively. Acknowledge that the other person's feelings are their own, and not a reflection of your value or a problem for you to solve. The Stoic approach encourages you to focus on your responses. If you feel hurt or rejected, rather than allowing these feelings to spiral out of control, you observe them and question their validity. Are they based on your assumptions or perceptions? Could there be other explanations for the person's behavior? By controlling how you interpret and react to external events, you remain anchored in your own emotional stability, unaffected by the actions or feelings of others. 2. Recognizing the signs of dislike. Even when someone tries to mask their true feelings, certain behaviors can reveal underlying negative emotions. These signs are often subtle but can help you identify when someone may dislike you, despite outward politeness. By recognizing these cues, you gain insight into the dynamics of the relationship, allowing you to respond with Stoic wisdom rather than emotional reactivity. 1. Body language, closed-off posture. Nonverbal communication often speaks louder than words. If someone dislikes you, their body language may betray their true feelings, even when their words remain polite or neutral. Closed-off posture is a common sign of discomfort or disapproval. This can manifest as crossed arms, leaning away from you, or positioning themselves at a distance. Avoiding eye contact is another typical signal that they are disengaged or uncomfortable in your presence. From a Stoic perspective, recognizing these signs is not an invitation to respond defensively or to become upset. Instead, it serves as an opportunity to acknowledge the external reality of the situation. Rather than allowing their nonverbal cues to trigger an emotional reaction, you focus on maintaining composure and reflect on how best to proceed without letting their discomfort influence your state of mind. 2. Short or curt responses. A person who dislikes you may communicate in a manner that feels distant or impersonal. Their responses may be brief, overly formal, or devoid of warmth. They may avoid engaging in meaningful conversation, giving one-word answers or responding in ways that suggest indifference. This can be particularly frustrating when you're trying to establish a connection or engage in a deeper discussion. In Stoic philosophy, we are encouraged to rise above such tactics and avoid engaging in counterproductive exchanges. By maintaining your emotional equanimity and refusing to react impulsively, you retain control over your own state of mind. Instead of taking the bait or responding with similar passive aggression, Stoicism advocates for responding with clarity and calmness, addressing the situation directly, if necessary, or choosing to let it go. 3. Passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive behavior is one of the more challenging and insidious signs that someone may be hiding their true feelings of dislike. This type of behavior often manifests through sarcasm, backhanded compliments, subtle criticisms, or indirect actions designed to undermine or criticize without confronting the issue directly. For example, someone might make a seemingly innocent comment that, on closer inspection, carries a hidden insult, or they may act in ways that sabotage your efforts while pretending to be supportive. These actions can often leave you confused, as they appear innocuous at first glance, but carry a sting when examined more deeply. The complexity of passive aggression. The reason passive-aggressive behavior can be particularly difficult to deal with is that it lacks direct confrontation. It is a covert form of communication where the person avoids being overtly hostile but still conveys their dislike or frustration through indirect means. This leaves the recipient of such behavior unsure of how to respond, often questioning their own perceptions or feeling as though they are overreacting. It can also create a toxic environment where the true issues remain unspoken, making resolution challenging. For example, consider a situation in which a colleague gives you a backhanded compliment like, "You did a great job on that presentation, considering your lack of experience." On the surface, this may appear to be praise, but the hidden message is that they are undermining your achievement by bringing up your perceived inexperience. Or, someone may avoid taking responsibility for a task they agreed to do, leaving you to pick up the slack, and when confronted, act as if they did nothing wrong. These tactics can evoke frustration, confusion, or resentment, especially when you're unsure of their true intentions. The Stoic response to passive aggression. From a Stoic perspective, the goal is to maintain emotional equanimity, no matter how passive-aggressive behavior manifests. Stoicism teaches that our peace of mind should not be dependent on the actions or opinions of others. By recognizing passive-aggressive behavior for what it is, an external event outside of our control, you avoid falling into the trap of reactive emotions. The Stoic approach encourages you to rise above passive-aggressive tactics by refusing to engage in a similar exchange. If you react with passive aggression in return, you only perpetuate the cycle of indirect hostility, which leads to more confusion and potentially damaged relationships. Instead, Stoics advocate for responding with clarity, calmness, and directness. If addressing the issue is necessary, do so with honesty and integrity, without resorting to aggression or hidden messages. For example, in the earlier scenario, instead of reacting defensively to the backhanded compliment, you might calmly acknowledge the praise while asserting your competence or politely redirecting the conversation. In some situations, Stoicism encourages you to simply let it go, especially when the behavior is minor or if you recognize that addressing it would only escalate tensions. A Stoic would assess whether engaging in a confrontation is productive or if it would only disturb your inner peace and energy. By focusing on your internal state and refusing to let passive-aggressive behavior provoke an emotional reaction, you maintain your sense of control and avoid the trap of becoming entangled in negativity. Embracing clarity and calmness. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the practice of responding to external events with a clear and level-headed mind. When confronted with passive-aggressive behavior, it's important to pause and take a moment to reflect before reacting. Instead of allowing the behavior to stir up anger or confusion, ask yourself, what is within my control in this situation? What is this person's behavior really telling me about their feelings? How can I respond in a way that preserves my peace and clarity? If the person's behavior warrants a direct conversation, the Stoic approach would involve calmly addressing the issue with the goal of understanding, not confrontation. For example, you might say, I felt a little uncomfortable with your comment earlier. Could you clarify what you meant? This approach removes the ambiguity and puts the focus on clear communication, without defensiveness or hostility. In some cases, Stoicism teaches that the best response may be to simply disengage. If the passive-aggressive behavior is a recurring pattern and addressing it directly would not lead to a productive outcome, you can choose to detach emotionally and focus your energy on relationships where open and honest communication thrives. By doing so, you conserve your emotional energy and maintain your peace, avoiding the drain of dealing with manipulative or indirect behaviors. Reflecting on your own responses. Lastly, Stoicism encourages self-reflection. Even when someone behaves passive-aggressively, it's important to consider why their actions affect you. Do you feel the need for their approval? Are you overly sensitive to indirect criticism? Stoics believe that we can control our own emotional responses by examining and altering our internal thought processes. This means that by strengthening our own emotional resilience and detachment, we become less vulnerable to the impact of passive-aggressive behavior. Through this practice of self-awareness, we learn to see passive-aggressive actions for what they are, external events that do not require us to abandon our inner peace. Instead of reacting impulsively or defensively, we respond with clarity, confidence, and a firm commitment to preserving our emotional integrity. In sum, passive-aggressive behavior is a subtle but revealing sign that someone might be hiding their true feelings of dislike. By following Stoic principles, you learn not to react with emotion or engage in counterproductive exchanges. Instead, you rise above the situation by maintaining clarity, addressing the behavior directly when appropriate, or letting it go if it is not worth your energy. This approach ensures that you remain in control of your emotional state and preserve your inner peace, regardless of the actions of others. 4. Lack of genuine interest. When someone dislikes you, they may show little interest in your life, feelings, or well-being. They might ignore personal details you've shared, avoid asking questions about your day or experiences, or seem uninterested in forming a deeper connection. This lack of empathy or curiosity can be painful, but it's important to recognize it as a sign of detachment rather than a reflection of your worth. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control how others react or whether they are invested in us. Instead of becoming resentful or trying to force their interest, the Stoic approach is to reflect on the relationship's true value. If someone is not interested in you, it may be a sign to reassess your expectations or focus on nurturing relationships with those who reciprocate your interest and respect. 5. Ironic or dismissive tone. Sometimes, people use irony or a dismissive tone to disguise their dislike. They may downplay your ideas, achievements, or emotions in a way that appears humorous but is actually condescending. They might laugh off something important to you or belittle your contributions in subtle ways. From a Stoic standpoint, it's crucial to consider whether their words or tone should be taken personally. A Stoic would reflect on whether their opinions hold weight or if they are merely a projection of their own biases. By detaching emotionally from their dismissive tone, you avoid allowing it to undermine your confidence. Instead, you maintain your sense of self-worth and choose to engage, or disengage, in a manner that aligns with your values. 6. Avoidance of eye contact. One of the most telling and subtle signs of discomfort in interpersonal interactions is the avoidance of eye contact. Eye contact is a fundamental aspect of human communication. It helps establish a connection, conveys interest, and signals engagement. When someone consistently avoids looking you in the eye while you speak, it can indicate a lack of connection or an unwillingness to engage. This behavior, though often overlooked, may be a silent expression of disinterest, discomfort, or even hidden hostility. For a Stoic, this avoidance of eye contact presents an opportunity to practice indifference and emotional self-control. Rather than taking it personally or becoming upset by the perceived rejection, Stoicism teaches us to recognize that such external behaviors are outside of our control. What matters is how we respond internally to these signals. If someone is avoiding eye contact, this should not be an invitation to feel hurt or insecure, nor should it drive us to seek validation through forceful attempts to make them engage. Instead, the Stoic approach is to remain composed, unaffected by their actions, and mindful of our own emotional state. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control the actions or feelings of others. In this case, the lack of eye contact is an external event that reflects their current state, whether it is discomfort, disinterest, or something else. Rather than letting their behavior provoke an emotional reaction, a Stoic would focus on maintaining their inner peace. This practice of detachment allows you to rise above superficial cues, keeping your emotional balance intact regardless of how others act toward you. Furthermore, avoiding eye contact does not necessarily reflect something personal about you. It might stem from the other person's shyness, social anxiety, or simply their mood at the moment. Rather than jumping to conclusions, the Stoic would advise observing the situation with clarity, without allowing assumptions to trigger a negative emotional response. This recognition allows you to remain calm, acknowledging the external reality of the moment without it influencing your inner world. The power of self-reflection. If the avoidance of eye contact bothers you, it can be a valuable opportunity for self-reflection. Stoicism teaches that external events, such as someone's behavior, are not inherently good or bad. What matters is our perception and judgment of those events. If you feel discomfort when someone avoids your gaze, ask yourself, why does this bother me? Do I need their validation to feel worthy? This introspective approach enables you to understand the root of your emotional response, giving you the power to choose how to handle it moving forward. By practicing detachment and focusing on your internal reactions, you strengthen your ability to remain calm and centered, regardless of the external circumstances. 7. Subtle exclusion from conversations or activities. Another sign that someone might dislike you is subtle exclusion from group conversations, activities, or social events. This exclusion is often more passive than a direct rejection, making it more difficult to pinpoint but equally telling. For example, people may avoid inviting you to certain events, leave you out of group discussions, or make little effort to include you in their social circle. These actions, while not overtly hostile, can communicate a lack of interest or even an active desire to distance themselves from you. In these situations, Stoicism teaches us to acknowledge that such exclusion is an external event beyond our control. The feelings and behaviors of others are not ours to change. Rather than reacting with resentment, frustration, or trying to force your way into the group, Stoicism encourages us to maintain a sense of calm detachment. We are reminded that the way others treat us does not define our worth or value. Their actions reflect their state of mind, not an inherent flaw in us. Instead of viewing the exclusion as a personal affront, a Stoic would shift their focus inward. They would recognize that their true value comes from within, not from the approval or inclusion of others. Rather than trying to control or manipulate the situation to feel included, Stoicism encourages you to detach emotionally and accept that the group dynamics are outside your control. If someone deliberately excludes you, it is their choice, and it is important to resist the urge to internalize it or become upset. Nurturing positive relationships. Stoicism also guides us to prioritize relationships that bring us peace and fulfillment. If exclusion becomes a recurring theme with certain individuals or groups, it might be an indication to reassess the value of those relationships. Are these relationships based on mutual respect and shared values, or are they causing you emotional turmoil? A Stoic would advise focusing your energy on cultivating relationships with people who genuinely appreciate and respect you. At the same time, Stoicism reminds us that the external world, including social dynamics, is often beyond our control. By recognizing that exclusion is a natural part of life, and that not every person or group will align with us, we can maintain our emotional balance. Instead of feeling rejected or unworthy, we can choose to move forward with clarity and purpose, knowing that our worth is not dependent on anyone else's approval. Final thoughts: applying Stoic wisdom to social interactions. By recognizing subtle signs like avoidance of eye contact and social exclusion, you gain valuable insights into the dynamics of your relationships. However, Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the actions or emotions of others, we can control how we respond. When faced with discomfort or signs of dislike, a Stoic maintains composure, practicing emotional resilience and detachment. This empowers you to navigate social situations